Bloody Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and no welcome guests. Human givens. Human what? It's exactly what I thought when I first heard of it. Well, one person in here knows what it is, which I didn't know before today. But here we are, 2 years on, and I'm a trainee in human given psychotherapy. So today I just wanted to share with you just a brief overview of the different types of therapists that are out there, in the view that perhaps sometime, that maybe at some point where you may need to reach out for therapy, that you have a basic understanding of what therapist might be suitable for you. And then I'm just going to share a little bit about why I chose human givens. It wasn't the name. It wasn't the name. A few years ago, I decided, okay, I want to help people with mental health. I want to do something and get into that field. So I started Googling how to become a mental health therapist, what therapies are there. It's overwhelming. There's over 400 therapies out there. If you don't need therapy when you start Googling this stuff, there's a possibility you might need it at the end. But basically, my take on this is there's basically 4 categories. You have the counsellors. Counsellors are great listeners. If you need someone to talk to and you just want to offload, you've got self-awareness, you can almost self-soothe your problems by talking about it, counsellors are the therapists for yourselves. Then there's psychotherapists, which is all about talking therapies. They take those listening skills and then perhaps are just able to suggest a few things, maybe reframe a few things. So sometimes if you're sitting there and you're feeling really overwhelmed and talking about it isn't cutting it and you may just need a little bit of guidance, psychotherapists are perhaps the therapist to look for. Then we've got psychologists. Psychologists are the ones that have got the breadth and the depth of understanding about mental health and about the mind and the theories and all of that, because they've done the psychology degree, the study of this stuff, the human behaviour. Then they've got the masters and the doctorates. So this is somebody, if you've got an issue and you want to get somebody who's really got a depth and an understanding of how the human mind works, then perhaps this might be the therapist for you. And then, get this one right, you've got the psychiatrists. Because all the names are similar, aren't they? The psychiatrists, they're the ones that are medical doctors that are going to be able to prescribe medicines. But this one, hopefully you're not searching out on Google. Hopefully this one actually, you're going to get some help from your GP if you're looking for a psychiatrist. But it can get overwhelming because that's my basic overview. You've got your counsellors, your psychotherapists, your psychologists, and we'll leave the psychiatrists for now. But it gets confusing because within each of these therapies, there's hundreds of therapies. Because somebody somewhere had an idea and thought, that really worked, let me make a therapy on it. And in counselling, that therapy really worked, let me make a therapy on it. So then they start overlapping as well, because you might get a psychologist calling themselves a counsellor and a psychotherapist. And then you might get a psychotherapist calling them a counsellor. How confused are we? But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you are in that position and you need to find someone, my trump advice over everything else is find the right therapist for you that you can relate to, that you can have trust with, that you have rapport with, someone you can trust, and it's a safe environment for you. So the overview of the therapists, I would say, is the counsellors who listen, the psychotherapists who take the listening and will talk back, the psychologists who have the breadth of understanding, and the psychiatrists that are at the hospitals and the medicating people. But then why did I choose human givens? Human givens falls into a place that many years ago helped me. And I loved it. I didn't really understand the name and what it was, but I looked at it now because I did look at psychology as well. But psychology I was looking at least 5 or 6 years before I could really start helping someone. Human givens is a brief, solution-focused therapy. that mean anything to anyone? Yes, one person. Brief that we only really want to keep a client in therapy between 3 to 5 sessions. Don't want them in therapy for life. People have the skills to function in life. And the solution focused, well, you come in with an issue or a problem that's arisen at that point, and then agree a strategy with your client. How do we best get to that solution and get you functioning in the real world and navigating your own mental health going forward? So for me, it was ideal, practical, useful, and showing people that they really, then you're not broken for life. This is a blip, and you can actually have hope that you don't have to be in therapy forever. The underlying thing with human givens, the underlying principles, is that we basically have this, we're born as little human, and we've come into the world with these set of needs. So we've got physical needs. Basic, sleep, food, water, air, shelter. And when these needs are not being met, what happens to our physical health? When we're not slept enough, how do you feel? When we haven't eaten enough, how do you feel? But when you've eaten enough and you've slept enough, how do you feel? So when you get all of these needs lined up in balance, your physical health is great. But what about our mental health? We also have a set of emotional needs, and there's 9 of them all together. Things like a sense of community, a sense of status, a sense of intimacy. When all of these are aligned, we can have great mental health when they're met in balance. But a life event happens and takes up 4 of them in one go. What happens to your mental health? It drops. So then, the process of this therapy is basically, we've got these needs. So a client might come in and you find what needs aren't being met. What has happened in their life that's stopping them getting these needs met? What is it that they have in their own resources that can help them get it met and get them back in life and get them functioning? And these needs that we're born with, it's a given for humans. Hence the name, human givens. Not context.